Hi everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and I am coming back to you with a themed reading vlog. In this vlog, I am going to take my love for retellings. If you know and have been around a while, retellings are some of my favorite books. I love a retelling. I'm a very nostalgic reader, and I absolutely love that subgenre of fantasy. But for today, I'm actually not going to be reading fantasy necessarily. It might be fantasy romance. I am going to take my love for retellings and my new romance era me, because I am currently in my romance era since about December. Before that, I rarely read romance. Now that's my main reading that I do. Who is she? Who knows? But I am going to be taking my love of retellings and my love for romance and smush them together and read dark romance retellings of fairy tales. This is gonna be a great time, I think, but that is what we're doing. The first dark romance retelling we're gonna be reading is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. I have heard so many amazing things about the Emily McIntyre series, and right now Brooklyn from Brooklyn Reads, I will tag Brooklyn down below, is doing a read-along of the Hooked books, and I am a part of that read-along, reading them with Brooklyn. So tonight on Sprints, we will be starting this series, and I will be starting this book on Brooklyn Sprints tonight. What I know about this book is that it is a dark romance retelling. It is set in the contemporary world, so not a fantasy world. It's like an urban setting. And it follows James, who is obviously the character of Hook, who is trying to kind of seek revenge on a man, Peter. We don't really know why he's seeking revenge on Peter, but he's seeking revenge on Peter, and the way he's going to do this is through Peter's daughter, Wendy. So it's a Hook and Wendy dark romance and a Peter Pan retelling, if you haven't caught that. I will start this tonight on Sprints, and I will come back and chat with you very soon with more about this book, because as of right now, that's really all I know about it. I know a lot of people love Emily McIntyre's books and this whole series of dark romance retellings. So I'm very excited to dive in and see what all the fuss is about with the first book, Hooked. Good morning, everyone. Very late last night, I finished Hooked by Emily McIntyre on Leandra's Sprints. I'm gonna give this 3 stars. This really is almost a mafia romance with a retelling background. It is definitely a Peter Pan retelling. There are so many nods to the Peter Pan story, and obviously all our characters are Peter Pan people. So this follows Hooked mainly and Wendy. Those are our 2 points of view. Wendy is the daughter of Peter Michael and has a brother named John. Wendy has lived a very sheltered life, which to me somewhat confused me, because her father is definitely like a person in the crime world, and Wendy doesn't know that. He does have a legitimate business in airplanes called Never Air, and I think that might be how she wasn't aware, but she's definitely not aware of his dark side. Hook is coming after Peter for revenge, and he's using Wendy to do it. So he inserts himself into her life and starts to kind of date Wendy and have a relationship with Wendy to get to Peter. Hook is definitely the head of a very large drug emporium, and the drug they are selling is pixie dust. Hook is, like I said, going after Peter for revenge. I won't go into all the details of that, but that is what's happening. I did really like the Hook character. He was very dark. It's a dark, dark romance. There's a lot of violence in this book. Like I said, it's almost like a mafia romance with all the crime families that are in this. And there was a lot to explain why Hook wanted his revenge on Peter. His motivations were very, very clear in the book. Wendy, however, is extremely naive, but also doing things that I just kind of felt sometimes didn't line up with her character. And I found her motivations for some of her behavior a little confusing at times. I really did enjoy the little hints towards the original story. Like I said, there's Never Air, there's Tina Bell, which is Tinkerbell, Peter Michael, John, who's Wendy's brother, Wendy, Hook. there's pixie dust. There's a lot of really great mentions to the original Peter Pan story. But the one thing that really was not my favorite was the last 50 pages of this book. There were so many twists at the end of this book. It was twist upon twist upon twist upon twist. And it felt excessive to me, and it felt like the author almost just couldn't decide what they wanted to do with the story and just kept switching it up. I know a lot of people love this book, so maybe I'm in the minority on that, but I would have rather had one or two really carefully chosen twists than so many in such a short period of time. It would have been nice even if some of the twists would have happened closer to the middle of the book and spread them out a bit, or like I said, pared them down. It was very cluttered at the end. Also, the epilogue was from Hook's perspective, and honestly, it's 2 years later, and it really just didn't feel like it fit the vibe of the original story, and it felt really out of place to me. Anyway, I am going to read book 2 in this series eventually, because it is a whole new story. These are a series of standalones following different fairy tales. So I would still like to give this author another try and see if I like the Lion King retelling a little bit more, but that is not what I'm going to be getting into today. Today, I am going to be reading my very first Katie Roberts and reading Desperate Measures. Desperate Measures is a smutty Aladdin retelling, and if I am correct, it follows Jasmine and Jafar. That's what I think is the couple in this. Haven't read it yet, so we'll see if I'm correct when I come back and update you in a little bit. This is not going to take long. It's a pretty short book. So I'm going to go read this, and I will chat with you very, very soon. So I finished Desperate Measures by Katie Roberts. I ended up giving this 4 stars because I really did have a good time with it. My one issue with this, which I kind of went in knowing was the case, but I think it was even more than I was expecting, was this was mostly smut. There wasn't very much plot in this book. And I'm kind of wondering if that's going to continue on along with the series, because we did meet our characters for the rest of the series, or at least the next 2 books. The next book follows Hades. We met Hades quite a lot in this book. And the next book after that follows Hook. Again, he makes a smaller appearance, but is in the book as well. This is an Aladdin retelling, and it pretty much fits the story of Aladdin in a way. Because in the original Aladdin, Jafar is trying to overthrow Jasmine's father and claim Jasmine as part of his overthrowing of her father. This basically starts off with that has happened. Jafar has overthrown Jasmine's father and claims her as his own. And the reason he's done this is he knows he can take over her father's business, but also her father has just sold her into an arranged marriage with Prince Ali, who Jafar knows is evil. Jasmine doesn't want this marriage either, so she somewhat willingly goes along with Jafar. This does have consensual non-consent in it, so keep that in mind, and please check triggers because it's a lot. But I had a good time reading this book, so that's why it ended up getting 4 stars. I do tend to like my smut to have a little bit more plot than this. This was probably 30% plot, 70% smut, and I would probably prefer more of like a 50-50 situation. But I'm not sure if that's just normal for Katie Roberts since it's my first Katie Roberts. Let me know in the comments if you've read Katie Roberts and what you feel about the level of smut versus plot, because I would be interested to know what the future books are like. I do think I am going to continue with this series and try the Hades book. Even though I wouldn't say Greek mythology would be my favorite retellings, I'm definitely more into fairy tale retellings. But once I get past Hades and Persephone, then you have Hook and Beauty and the Beast. So those would be intriguing to me. The next and last book in this smutty retellings vlog is going to be The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. This book, we are going back to Peter Pan. There are a lot of smutty Peter Pan retellings. There are a lot, so we're gonna go back to Peter Pan with this one. This follows the Darling girls. Every year on their 18th birthday, the Darling women disappear. They might disappear for a week, a month, a year, you never know, but they come back severely broken. It is now our main character's 18th birthday, and the Never King has come for her along with his band of lost boys. I'm very excited to read this. It's very tiny. I think the audiobook's only like 4 hours. It's small. So I will come back and chat with you once I have read this. I think this concept sounds very dark but intriguing. And it is the first book in a series, but I believe this is more of a series where it does build on each other, and each book still follows Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, where the other 2 books that we've read in this, the series, were standalone retellings. This one I think is like an overarching story. Hi everyone, I have finished The Never King by Nikki St. Crow, and this is by far my favorite book of this vlog. It is going to be a 5-star read for me. I am in love with the Neverland that the author has created. This Neverland is so interesting, and the reasons the Darlings are being taken to Neverland is so different than what I expected it to be, but also still holds true to somewhat of the original story. So as we mentioned earlier, the Darling women all disappear at the age of 18 to go to Neverland. Peter kidnaps them at the age of 18. They may be gone for a day, a week, a month, but they always come back very mentally broken. Winnie Darling is our newest Darling, and she has watched her mother deal with basically a psychosis that happened to her while she was in Neverland. Peter comes and takes Winnie on her 18th birthday, but Winnie is determined to not let this happen to her. She is going to work with Peter Pan and try to save her mental state while getting to know what Peter needs and really actually trying to help Peter. There are 4 main lost boys that we follow in this story. There's Peter Pan, obviously. There are Cass and Bash, which are Fay Prince twins. And there is Vane, who is the most magical of the 4 because he has not lost his magic. Peter has lost his magic because he's lost his shadow. And the 2 Fay Princes have lost their wings due to something that they've done in their past. We learn about that in the book. But Vane still has his shadow and his magic is somewhat evil. We follow them all getting to know Wendy, them kind of telling Wendy what they need from her and why the Darlings are being stolen. I won't go into that because I want you to read the book because it's so good. It is very smutty. We have a reverse harem situation with Winnie and the 4 lost boys, and I absolutely cannot wait to find out what happens in the rest of this series. It has been a while since I have decided that I need to binge a series in its entirety, because I think this series is done. The 4th book just came out a couple months ago, and I think that's the end of the series. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. I don't have time this week to throw away my whole TBR, but I am bound and determined to somehow fit the rest of this series into Smut Den next weekend. I need to get this into Smut Den because I need to read the rest of this before the month is over. The last time I felt this way was the Witsex series by Ashley Rostek, and I absolutely adore that series. So I know this series is obviously something I really enjoy already because it's making me want to just go, dive in, read the whole thing. They're all fairly short. I think they're all about 4 to 5 hour audiobooks. So they're short reads, and I should be able to get them in during Smut Den as long as the wheel of Smut Den works for the prompts. I may have to do some bending of the Smut Den prompts, but we will do what we need to do because I need to read this during Smut Den. Anyway, this is the end of this vlog. We've been a little bit all over the place. We've had a 3, a 4, and a 5. We've built up as we've gone through the vlog and saved our best for last. If you know of any smutty retellings that I should check out, please let me know down below. I love a retelling, and I'm just newly into this dark romance journey. So please leave your recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.